One of the cars on the top of my wish list is the Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio? One of them. The Alfa Giulia is one of the cars at the top of my wish list, and for a few reasons. Starting off, I think it's better looking than any of the German competition, but I do think the Germans couldn't really do much about one of the reasons why I love it, and I think the front end having the sort of triangular grille sort of reminds me about having a Mitsubishi Evo, and none of the German brands are going to style their cars like that. And also on the way it looks, I think for what it is and the competition it's up against, it is understated in comparison, because it doesn't have something like an M3 does where it's got M badges written all over it, or like for the C63 the grille's massively different to normal. And then same with the RS5, the grille is completely different from even something like the S5 and even the RS4. The next thing is Jeremy Clarkson on the Grand Tour makes it very clear, or at least hints at it being very clear, that this is a modified version of the Ferrari engine in the California. Yes, the C63 has an AMG V8, and an AMG engine is famously in the Pagani Zonda. I think there's something about the pedigree of it being a Ferrari engine, lapped in a four-door saloon. When it comes up against the German equivalents, that just stands out to me more. And I think that's more to do with, if I had the money and was looking at a potential purchase of a Ferrari, I'd probably be favouring McLaren equivalent over it. So I think that pedigree has an edge to the German equivalents in my mind, but I think that's very personal to me, so I don't expect anyone else to share that. Now, the only thing putting me off other Alfas and older Alfas is the fact that they're famously unreliable and fall apart. Now, I believe, and this is a belief based upon nothing, so don't listen to me, not that you should listen to me anyway, but I think because it is a new car as well, it wouldn't have been out long enough for there to be reported common problems or anything like that. But I think it is a step forward for Alfa in the way that it's a modern car. It's not going to have the electrical faults or some of the terrible production qualities of the old Alfas. And I think that just puts a lot more comfort into the thought of getting one. Now, there are obviously downsides to everything, and it's not any different here. Like, it's quite obvious that the interior isn't as good as, say, Mercedes or an Audi. It doesn't look as good, it doesn't look as comfortable, it doesn't look as posh as you'd expect for spending £80,000 on. But I do think it's good enough. I think if you're buying a performance car, or at least it should be, you're looking for how it drives and the engine it has and how it makes you feel over the comforts of it. Because if your sole intention was to go off purchasing a car based upon how comfy it was, you had 80 grand, I'm pretty sure you go for a Range Rover. So I think it's good enough. As far as I'm concerned, as long as it can facilitate either a sat-nav built into it, sat-nav on my phone, or a sat-nav put in there, and has decent enough speakers for me to play music in, that's all I'm bothered about. Of course, the other downside to point out is something that Chris Harris makes very clear in any of his reviews of the Alfa. Probably not as refined when it comes to comparing it to its German rivals on a track, and the ease of getting it around that track and how much fun you can have in it, or responding to what you want to do. But again, I think most people are buying these are trying to look for fun on the roads rather than on the track, and they make it very clear that that is virtually indistinguishable and is good enough. If I were to have the Giulia, I certainly wouldn't be taking it around the track. I think track cars are for either purpose-built or purpose-modified cars rather than stock. But I'm not saying that that's not against, that's just my personal opinion based upon nothing. Just like all of these cars, I'm taking other people's words for it. I don't know anything about performance cars. I drive a white Fiesta, so